Hello there everybody, welcome back to Good Game Have Fun. I'm the Hat Person and here's my review of Arkanoid vs Space Invaders for iOS. So for anybody who doesn't have the time, let me give you the short version of this review. If nothing else comes up, then this is easily my favorite iPhone game of the year. There's almost nothing bad I can say about the game other than it has made me waste so many hours of my time just playing through it pretty much every single chance I get. It is addicting visually and audibly pleasing, and it is an absolute joy to play, all for just $5. This game definitely gets my highest recommendation. Now for all the people who want me to elaborate a little bit more, let me give you the long version of the review. I'm impressed at how many times Space Invaders can be reinvented in creative ways and still have it work very well. From Space Invaders Extreme on DS and PSP to Space Invaders Infinity Gene on consoles, it was interesting to see how many different twists one can take on the Atari Classic. And now, I've been impressed yet again with Arkanoid vs Space Invaders, a fusion of two classic titles into a very addicting and fun mobile game. It's no exaggeration when I say that I try to play this game every single small chance I get, from playing a few levels before going to bed or trying to beat a challenge while waiting for videos to render. I can't stop thinking of anything other than playing this game. So created by Tidal Games and published by Square Enix, Arkanoid vs Space Invaders is a fairly unconventional iOS title, at least by modern standards. And by that I mean that it is not a free-to-play game or like a freemium kind of thing. You just pay $5 and that's it. The entire game is yours. There's no free-to-play hooks, there's no microtransactions, there's no, timers or loot boxes or any other kind of sleazy way to, get you to spend more money, advertisements, and none of that. You just pay money, and they give you a full, finished product that you can play from beginning, middle to end. Crazy, I know. But when it comes to the context of iOS titles and the App Store, yeah, it does sound pretty crazy. It's fairly unusual nowadays, but I fully endorse this kind of business model, honestly. When booting up the game, it takes you straight into the action and briefly explains the basics. As the name implies, there's Arkanoid and Space Invaders put together, so you control the Arkanoid paddle as a spaceship with your finger. Instead of shooting the Space Invaders, you reflect back the bullets that they shoot at you. And that's pretty much all there is to know. However, this very simple concept is difficult to master, as they keep adding more and more mechanics the further you progress throughout the many levels to play. Not all levels have the same objective, so it is up to you to create a strategy that fits that objective. Along with partners you can recruit that add even more abilities. There is a sort of beauty in seeing this game in motion, because it's so impressive to think how these two different, seemingly completely different and unrelated properties can fuse together so naturally. It seems like, whenever I play this game, I feel like these two properties were always meant to be together from the very beginning. It's like a romance out of a fairy tale. What is even more impressive is that no matter how much previous knowledge you might have of Arkanoid or Space Invaders, the game still gives you creative challenges in a variety of different levels that forces you to think differently. This is not 100% Arkanoid. You can't just play Arkanoid, in the same way that you can't just play Space Invaders. Not all the levels are just kill everything to get a bunch of points. A lot of it are very specific objectives, like beat a boss before the time runs out, get to this certain item, you have to hit this certain thing in a certain way, or you have to defeat this X amount of Space Invaders, or defeat this X amount of Arkanoid blocks. They always change it around, and they always gotta, flip around what you thought it was, how to play Arkanoid, how to play Space Invaders. It completely recontextualizes how to play both of those games by fusing them together and coming up with constantly different and more creative ways to challenge you. And this is further accentuated with the fact that there are different worlds when you play the game. So there's World 1 and a bunch of levels, World 2 and a bunch of levels, and so for every world they keep layering and adding more and more mechanics to it. It's not just deflecting back the bullets whenever a Space Invader shoots at you. It's about, okay, so you know how to do this, but now how about this power-up, or how about, debuffs, and how about this obstacle and this other thing. All of it kind of layers and layers on top of each other to the point where you're thinking of 10 different things at the same time. Plus the abilities that you get with your partners, it's crazy, but it's awesome. What adds to the gameplay experience is its outstanding music and visuals. Filled with similar electronic music that was also found in Extreme and Infinity Gene, there are many tracks that got my head bobbing as I tried different strategies to beat a particularly hard level. Some tracks even reminded me of Res Infinite, which is always a good thing. When it comes to sound effects, they did a great job in melding the modern music with the classic Space Invader sound effects and defeating invaders and shooting projectiles. You can clearly hear the old Atari sound effects, but they are mixed and implemented so elegantly that it feels natural along with all the other sounds. Whoever worked in the sound department deserves to be acknowledged because they did a pretty good job with this. Visuals also deserve a good deal of credit. The sheer attention to detail in all aspects of the game is commendable. Carrying a fairly traditional anime style, it shows its many partner characters and environments with bright colors and easily recognizable characteristics. This includes the invaders and the gameplay interface as well, for the enemies have their own colors, their sizes, patterns that are consistent and important to improving your performance in the game. The interface makes really great use of the screen space by subtly displaying abilities, meters, time limits, over there on the side or at the top without really getting in the way of the gameplay. There are a few options that do allow you to play in a more comfortable fashion, in case that the default controls don't do it for you. I love how considerate they are with the visuals. One of my favorite bits is the actual Arkanoid paddle itself, which acts as like a spaceship, the Vase they call it. And so, at first it looks very default, normal Arkanoid paddle, but as you keep recruiting more partners and you keep using all of them, the little paddle changes its appearance depending on who you are using. So if you use somebody like Nico, who's like this red character that has an ability to break through Arkanoid blocks, then you're gonna see like a red paddle. If you choose another partner that's like this big, scary shark guy, then the paddle will change into like a much more vicious, like shark design. I love it. It's such a tiny detail that I'm pretty sure most people are not even gonna notice until they actually stop and look at it, but those small things make a world of difference to me. If there's any kind of criticism I can give, is probably the story, but even then, it is barely a problem. Even though I thought that the story was very enjoyable and sweet, I didn't think it was interesting or impactful enough to really affect the gameplay all that much. The game could have easily been just as good if it didn't have any of that story and it was just, you know, World 1, World 2, beat the levels, beat the bosses, and you're done. Kinda like Space Invaders Extreme and Infinity Gene, where that is just a bunch of worlds and a bunch of levels and you finish the game and that's it. However, even then, you know, I would go as far as to defend the story, despite how it's not all that impactful, because it kind of contributes to kind of the cuteness and the humorous nature of the game. I kind of like it. It does add to the overall experience, even if it doesn't add to the gameplay specifically. I love Nadia and her eternal cuteness. I mean, that's something that I'm never gonna say no to. It kind of adds a little bit of a funniness to kind of the seriousness of the story, you know, because they talk about like, oh man, these invaders, they have caught up to us and so many lives will be lost if we don't stop them, but, you know, they have these little pixelated Space Invaders walking around with like electronic music in the background. It's pretty funny. It's silly. It's silly in a very cute and kind of endearing and charming way. In the same way that Metal Gear Solid has you, you know, hiding inside of cardboard boxes and, you know, distracting soldiers with like sexy posters of ladies and stuff like that. You know, a very self-serious game that has a lot of, you know, quirky little things sprinkled around. The same thing you could say about Arkanoid versus Space Invaders, where they're like, oh, you have to save the galaxy from those evil invaders, but you're hiring the bobble dinosaurs to help you out in defeating little pixelated aliens in the sky. Well, in the background, you just have this electronic music going like, like, again, it's very silly, but I don't see this game working in any other way. I feel like if they were way too serious or way too wacky with it, it would not have worked as well as this kind of happy balance that they got going on right now. In conclusion, I think Arkanoid vs. Space Invaders is a fantastic game, especially for a $5 iPhone app. Hey man, if you ask me, this is Game of the Year material for me. Usually when I finish reviewing a game, I tend to stop playing it in favor of just moving on for other games to review. Sometimes I just don't have the time, I'm a one-man team, so finish something, review it, move on. But nuh-uh, not with this. When I was typing out this review for the site, I have my phone right now. I have my phone, you know, jacked in. I'm ready to just load the game up immediately. Every single little in-between moment that I have of free time, I just go in there and I try to beat a challenge. I do like the hard mode levels. I try to beat my record in the rankings. I am definitely going to play this game way beyond this review. I will continue to play this game until I have exhausted everything it has to offer. And the way that I see it, that's not gonna happen anytime soon. I highly recommend Arkanoid vs. Space Invaders. Go get it. It's super cheap, super fun. You're not going to regret this decision. And there you go, that's the review. Thank you very much guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, and of course you can subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you can stay updated on everything that's going on in this place, and you'll never miss a single thing when a new video comes out. I got Let's Plays, I got commentary videos, of course I got reviews like these, and you can also visit my website, Good Game Have Fun, where I write about news, and of course I have the written version of this review uploaded over there, so you can go ahead and bookmark the website, and from there you can find everything, from my YouTube to my Twitch to the podcast to everything. You just need the one website, and then just subscribe to the YouTube, and there you go, you're good to go. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys soon.